46-year-old woman Yona Kazembe allegedly stabbed her husband, 44-year-old Norest Nyamukusa, with a kitchen knife during a violent domestic dispute in Highfield Western Triangle, Harare. What makes this case particularly disturbing is how quickly the situation reportedly escalated. According to police, it was around 11 p.m. on July 27, 2026, when Norest returned home appearing intoxicated and allegedly began accusing his wife of infidelity. What followed was a heated confrontation between the husband and wife, an argument that would ultimately end one of them dead and the other facing a murder charge. At first, it was simply an accusation. Norest reportedly came home drunk and began shouting at Yona, accusing her of being unfaithful. Whatever emotions were already present between the couple quickly intensified, and the argument reportedly turned physical. A fist fight broke out between the two. At this point, the situation had moved far beyond a disagreement between a husband and wife. It had become a violent confrontation inside their home. And then during the struggle, Yona allegedly reached for a kitchen knife. According to police, she allegedly stabbed Norest once on the right side of the chest. The wound caused him to collapse and become unconscious. In a matter of moments, the argument had transformed into a medical emergency. Yona reportedly called her daughter and informed her about what had happened, and Norest was then taken to Mugabe Central Hospital. But tragically, he did not survive. Norest Nyamukusa was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. His body was later taken to Mugabe mortuary, where it awaited a post-mortem examination. As investigations continued, for the family, this meant that a night that had begun like any other had suddenly become a night they would never forget. One moment there was an argument inside a home. The next, a husband and a father was fighting for his life. And by the time medical help arrived, he was gone. Yona Kazembe was subsequently arrested and is facing murder charge in connection with her husband's death. But what exactly happened inside that house during those crucial moments? How did an accusation of infidelity turn into a fist fight? And how did that fight ultimately end with a kitchen knife being used? Those are the questions investigators must now work to answer. According to police account, the confrontation began after Norest returned home intoxicated and accused Yona of cheating. Infidelity accusations can trigger extremely strong emotions, particularly when trust between two people has already become strained. Anger, jealousy, alcohol, and physical confrontation can create an extremely dangerous combination because people may react impulsively without thinking about what could happen seconds later. And in this case, the alleged consequences were irreversible. The kitchen knife reportedly used in stabbing was an ordinary household object. It was not a weapon one would normally associate with domestic argument. It was simply a kitchen knife. But during that confrontation, it allegedly became the instrument that ended Norest's life. This is one of the most frightening aspects of domestic disputes. They can begin with words and escalate so quickly that nobody involved fully understands the danger until it is too late. A disagreement can become shouting. Shouting can become pushing. Pushing can become a fist fight. And once physical violence begins, objects within reach can suddenly become dangerous weapons. The reported events surrounded Yona Kazembe and Norest Nyamukusa are therefore a tragic reminder of how quickly an emotional confrontation can spiral out of control. For Norest's family, the consequences will go far beyond the criminal investigation. His daughter was reportedly contacted after the stabbing, and she became part of the desperate attempt to respond to what happened. Instead of spending an ordinary evening with her family, she was suddenly confronted with the reality that her father had been seriously injured. His death would leave relatives with grief, unanswered questions, and the painful task of trying to understand how a domestic dispute could end in such a devastating way. Being charged with murder does not mean that the guilty has been established. The evidence and circumstances surrounding the incidents will have to be considered through the legal process, and the court will ultimately determine the appropriate outcome. But regardless of what happens in court, one fact remains. A man has lost his life, and an entire family has been left to deal with the consequences of one violent night. This case also forces us to think about the dangers of allowing heated domestic disputes to continue once emotions have reached their limit. Arguments between couples are not unusual. People disagree about money, trust, family, jealousy, and many other issues. But there is a major difference between having an argument and allowing that argument to become physical. Once fists are involved, the situation can become unpredictable within seconds. Alcohol can make matters even worse by affecting judgment and reducing self-control. That is why walking away from heated confrontation is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes walking away can be a decision that prevents a tragedy. If emotions are becoming uncontrollable, creating physical distance, seeking help from a trusted person, or involving authorities when necessary can be far safer than continuing a confrontation. The argument could have ended differently. Someone could have walked away. Someone could have called for help. But according to the reported account, the confrontation continued until a knife was allegedly used and a life was lost. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Crime with Zandie.